I need to talk to somebody about what I see going on.
Yeah, I need you to talk to me. I'm trying to work on that stuff with the legislature and everywhere, so I need you to talk to me.
Yeah, and
It's we're in a tough place.
yeah, there are a lot of concerned people out here. I mean, it comes up on Elfrida's Facebook page, but I think people are afraid to say things because on that same Facebook page we have farmers and so there's a lot of back and forth. But
the
it's
farmers understand. We're all just kind of getting somewhere together. And every bit of water conservation we do helps, every single bit, even flushing our toilets less. So water conservation, typically you don't flush it unless you did your business, your big business.
So. Right, but like I was going to put in a couple of pecan trees just as like a personal orchard for myself. Right. And I got the extension information because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to read and, I'm going to find out what exactly is entailing. And I read like one pecan tree takes 34,000 gallons of water a year. Is that true?
Yeah, it's intense. It's very intense.
As an they're planning. I mean, it depends on its life, where you are in its life cycle. But yeah, did you speak to our pecan guy? Blanking on his name right now.
No, I didn't need, like, once I read that, I was like, that's irresponsible. I mean, we live in the desert. It's so irresponsible.
Right.
I just don't
think
get
what concerns me is just that the 1,200s, deep wells that some people can afford, people with deep pockets, is just going to prevent access to people with much shallower wells. And it's kind of an equity issue.
Right.
Don't everyone deserve access to the water and the property.
Yeah, there's a water district being formed. Hopefully they just sent out mailers in the San Arizona area, and it's much larger than I thought it was going to be. They said they felt like they didn't make it as big as they wanted to, but near that new Turkey Creek farm for the dairy, and the dairy's actually supplementing, helping them to do everything to get that off the ground. And it's a public water district, so it'll be formed with a board through the county, and there'll be a small tax fee to keep it going, but all the infrastructure the dairy's gonna subsidize whatever they can't get. I mean, they realize the gravity of their decisions and using water, and they want to be able to use water forever too. So they're being good neighbors right in that vicinity. You're talking about pecan farmers in your own community, and I don't know how different that is, but Representative Griffin said that they have money, so that's a good thing. They have money for us to help us.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rebecca. Oh wait, who was saying that?
I'm sorry. I was talking over you. How did they decide the geographical area of that potential water district?
Oh, okay. So there is a possibility of setting up a rescue fund in our county to help people that need their well deepened or need a water system set up at their home because their well went dry. And there's a possibility for us to collect money, put it in a fund, and distribute it to people that need it. And that is a legislation that went through 4 years ago. And we have, for the life of us, not been able to figure out how to get money in there. And one of our first efforts was just going to the dairy and saying, okay, Coronado Farms, can you help us? And they said they were kind of afraid to donate money. I mean, they have money to put into that fund, but they wanted to help the people that they were affecting. They didn't want the fund to get soaked up for people in Tombstone or in McNeil, no offense, right, Jennifer, but in some other community that they weren't literally affecting. So, but you have growers in your area that could contribute. So I didn't know this until just recently, but I talked to Representative Griffin again about it, and she said we can set it up in a general area. We can set up the fund in the water aquifers. So we could set up one for McNeil and get money for that. So it's a beautiful idea, and it's neat when the legislature gives a smaller government permission to form a gifting mechanism, which that's what it would be. It would be a gifting mechanism.
Okay,
So
we'll
we
go
might
deep.
actually be solved.
Because the Bowie water system, remember a couple years ago, it like lost its well because it was too shallow. And they had
They had to
to spend like 80 grand digging deeper. Hopefully they would go deep.
Yeah, and see, so we could, when I found out we could set it up in districts, which that was just last week, that makes it a little more possible. And then we can use donations from those farmers. I think all of them, they all recognize it. We're at a point where they all recognize the situation that we're in, and we're in it together. I don't know that they feel like they can just up and leave. For one thing, they've got a lot of money invested. And I don't know that all of them don't care, but they do know we're in it together, even the ones that maybe don't care. So I actually think we could develop those funding mechanisms, those pockets of money for people that are in dire needs. But that's the reason it's set up in Sunnyzona, because that is the immediate area that new dairy is affecting. And so it doesn't already have a water district. Sunsites already has a water district. Where there are already water districts, they didn't need to set up a new one. So this is a new one. The local board is working on it really hard with the help of the dairy. So it's a good story because we're learning how to do that. We're seeing how possible and effective it is, and it could be set up in other locations if things like that happen. And then you have a deep well to provide water. So,
is there a precedent for that kind of a arrangement?
A precedent?
Yeah.
I think we're setting it. I think we're setting it. Well, it has happened. Elfrida just set up a new water district not too long ago, or expanded one because they needed to. So.
But are they distributing water?
Yeah.
For McNeil, is McNeil part of that Elfrida water district? Or is McNeil?
I don't think so. I think it's just in like the city proper. Well, it's not really a city, but just the general location. I guess I could find out. So there's paperwork the county has. When you say a precedent, there's an exact there's forms you have to fill out. You have to give them $1,000 so that they can help you with mailings and addresses. They will give you an address list so you can mail out to everybody that has property in that district that you decide on. So there's a lot of interaction with the county. That's why the $1,000 up front. And then when you get 51% of signatures and agreement of the people in that area, then they can do the paperwork and form the district. But you have to have your board in place. There's all kinds of stuff. It's a real thing. There's districts all over the county. There's special districts for fire, and we all have those, pretty much, and special districts for I can't think of the other one besides water, but there are special districts already, public districts.
But they don't necessarily deliver water. But this one plans to deliver water by a system that's going to be funded by privately, and then people will be
the meters.
Area,
normally
they would get an ongoing commitment or something, or
normally if there wasn't private funding, the county would bond for the cost of putting the whole system in, and all of the taxpayers would have an extra $200 or $300 a year tax burden for 10 years or until the system was paid for normally. But since they're going to get grants, and whatever's left over, the dairy's going to fund all the piping, the well drilling, all of that. So, and there are grants for that, for putting in good water systems. There's a lot of it right now. The water's a big deal, and it's there. So,
what about the active management area down here? What's your opinion on that, Peggy? Do you think that's?
You mean putting in an AMA?
Yeah, to establish a new one, to make one.
Establishing one?
Yeah.
I don't think the state would give you guys. Well, in Sierra Vista, you mean an AMA?
No, I mean, but the Wilcox and the Douglas Basin.
No.
Sierra Vista.
I think the best we could get is an INA, which is just a non-expansion area. That means you can't open up any new ground or drill any new wells.
Why do you say that though? Like why, what's prohibiting them from considering?
What's prohibiting them from getting an INA is that it has to be already an emergency. There has to already be no water. So the Harquahuila Valley, any INAs that were put in because there just wasn't any more water to pump. So there was legislation this year that was proposed, but it wasn't given a hearing in committee, that would allow them to use a prospective view as how much water was available. And that legislation was going through, but it got stalled. And
you mean
it was in last year too.
They could look, they could project the loss of water.
Yeah, they could project what might happen in the future and then establish the INA based on that. And that held up buoy. The San Simon Valley had a INA proposed, and ADWR came down and everything. There was a big hearing, and it didn't go anywhere because it was on a projected use. They really had enough water right now. But the people there were worried though that more California farmers would come in, and there with no regulation on water, we really do get a lot of people coming in. They just come here because they're like, oh good, free water, finally we found a place with free water.
And it's also great water.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. And there is a lot of water. It's just getting deeper. I can't remember who told me, but just a few days ago, somebody said, and maybe I read it in one of these articles, but 290 years left of water. It's just that it's going to be inaccessible. It's going to be so deep that we can't use it. There's also water that's closer to the surface that just needs to be cleaned up, that we can't use. We just drill right through it. We don't use it because it's not good water, like under our playa. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a possibility, all kinds of possibilities and all kinds of technologies that we'll probably see in the future, but it's just, it's not here now. And so anything we can do to conserve water on our own is still important. And we are working on the recharge wells. They've been using them down by Sierra Vista. So we're hoping that we can at least buy a little time by getting some extra water in. And the Natural Resource Conservation District, up until this year, had not had a plan to where they could contribute to recharge wells. They were just doing things with, clearing brush and stuff like that, opening up the rangeland, and so that it could let the water soak in rather than just a better range management type thing. But now they're talking about participating in recharge. And then the Boeing Starliner that might land, that has a 1 in 4 chance of landing on the dry lake when they land. I've talked to them, or we've talked to them twice at the county, and I've mentioned that we want to do recharge wells. They don't want water on the dry lake because they can't land when it's full of water. And so our idea is to not let the water get out there and have a chance to evaporate. It's clay, so it won't soak in. So we want to recharge it right as it enters, get it into the aquifer. And Boeing would even be a partner. So and I've asked them twice, and they've said yes twice. So they're interested in helping us pay for the recharge projects. So, I mean, that's a bright, shiny star in our, our neighborhood as well. So something everybody's interested in, and it's really important. It's actually more important than I'm even saying. There's no words.
You can't emphasize the importance.
Isn't, Marianne, I know you know that. Yeah.
I know. I think I'm hoping we get more and more people aware of that fact and what's happening and how to look things up and investigate for themselves and see what other people are doing and have share ideas.
And Representative Griffin was my mentor as far as political. I wouldn't even be into politics if it wasn't for her. And I'm to a point where I'm thinking a change would be good, just because we need someone who's open to the idea. And I'm not running, by the way. I've been in the legislature before. I've done that, but I really think we need to be open to change. We can't. It's just wrong to keep doing it this way and doing the same thing over and over, hoping for something different results. We all know that doesn't work. So
yeah.
Anyway,
we're drinking water that was infiltrated down there during the dinosaur era.
Right.
So it takes a very long time to build an aquifer.
Right, it does. And there's a lot, and it's plentiful. We do have that extra deep layer water, and it's extra clean and extra beautiful and very plentiful. There actually is some motion in it that for a long time, the well drillers and pump companies, have put in the deeper wells. It's like a river. It's flowing pretty hard. We think that we might have a connection somewhere else across, maybe under the Chiricahuas. And I was reading at the science library, and actually I found some stuff that talked about that. And even a small amount does actually go out deep water out towards the Gila River. So we are a closed basin, but we do have some features that geologically are at least feasible. I haven't read every page in the ADWR book in their report, but they mention it too.
The Wilcox, based on the hydrological model, the Wilcox model. Yeah.
There is some motion in our water in the deeper level.
Interesting.
But when you think about it, there's other, that any water drainage basins that we would be connected to, even the deep water, they're also struggling with water and drought. So it's not like we're connected to the Mississippi River Valley through that low deep water. It's just not there.
We have heard people over proposing piping that water over here.
They did pass that piece of legislation.
They're actually doing oil. Why not pump water? I don't know about that.
Well, I don't know. But what I did today is I found a very neat, it was at the Cascabel community group. Someone sent out this link, and you can click on pretty much any city. You could even do Wilcox, but click on the little cities around the country, and it's if a raindrop fell there, how it would follow its way where it went, like through all the rivers, and it ended up in the Gulf of Mexico or wherever. Beautiful, fun thing to do. You click on Wilcox or anywhere in our valley, and it makes this blue line across the dry lake because we are literally a closed basin. The water doesn't go anywhere, and it's spun and spun and spun. It didn't know what to do with itself, and then it just made this blue line. And I was like, yeah, we are in a pickle here.
Put that up on your Facebook, Peggy. I'd love to see that. Put that on your Facebook.
I don't have Facebook anymore, Marianne. Unless you're in a group. Are you in a group? I can post it into the groups. I joined Facebook again. I can email it to you though.
That'd be great. We'll email you to remind you. Thank you.
But if I could tell you, that pipeline it seems weird, but if you figure, I looked up where there were a lot of flood, and this was just for fun this morning, where there was a lot of flooding. Every 3 or 4 years, they flood out in the Red River Valley in eastern South Dakota. I mean, it's bad. It's intense flooding, and they get flooded regular. And they have floodgates that they open up, and it runs out on the plains or wherever. That's exactly, well, a little less than 1,000 miles from this small tributary stream in western Wyoming that runs down into the Colorado River. It runs into the San Juan and then down through into Colorado. And it does make sense to go 1,000 miles with a pipeline from someone who has floodwater to spare and send it intermittently into the San Juan, or went from Wyoming, western Wyoming, into the San Juan and down into the Colorado. It doesn't, it all, and that was not as the crow flies, that was along roadways, which would be more practical to transport water in an easement that's already designated. And I just thought, well, why not? So there is a legislation piece. The legislature is studying that, whether we like it or not.
Interesting.
But I guess you got to think out of the box sometimes. Oh goodness. Are you okay? I'm ready to go. I have another meeting. You pushed your button, Marianne. I can't hear you, Marianne. You're on mute. Sorry.
Till next time. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.